So, you want to buy a trucking business in the United States. Most people think the logistics industry is a gold rush controlled entirely by multi-billion-dollar giants like J.B. Hunt or Swift Transportation. And at the top of the market, that is absolutely true. A major freight carrier with thousands of trucks can trade on the public markets for over $10 billion. But that is only one side of the coin. According to the US Department of Transportation, as of mid-2025, there were almost 580,000 active motor carriers registered with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Out of those carriers, 91.5% operate 10 or fewer trucks. In the US, the vast majority of the supply chain is surprisingly fragmented. Thousands of small regional fleets are put up for sale every single year by owners looking to retire, starting at just $300,000. A buyer with the right financing can walk away with an active Department of Transportation operating authority, 3 used sleeper cabs, and a handful of established shipping lanes in less than a month. But if you want to make a real fortune in this industry, you can't think like a truck driver. You have to think like an investment fund. Why do private equity firms keep acquiring regional logistics hubs? Because according to the American Trucking Association's, trucks haul over 11 billion tons of freight, representing 72.7% of all domestic tonnage carried by all modes of transport in the United States. If you control the trucks, you control the physical flow of commerce. A trucking business officially makes money in 2 ways, unofficially in 3. But more on that later. The first way is the most obvious, moving freight. You secure a load, put it in a trailer, and drive it from point A to point B. You bill this out in 2 distinct ways, contract rates and spot rates. Contract rates are locked-in agreements with major shippers providing predictable volume at a set price per mile. Spot rates, on the other hand, are the Wild West. They are daily prices set by immediate supply and demand on digital load boards. Data from the American Transportation Research Institute reveals that the average cost of operating a commercial truck sits at an all-time high of $2.26 per mile. For dry van freight, average spot rates fluctuate tightly around $2 per mile, meaning that moving actual cargo has some of the thinnest margins in the business world. In fact, standard operating margins across the truckload sector hover at a razor-thin 2 to 8%, which is why the real profit of a trucking company comes from a completely different place. Successful fleet owners derive a massive portion of their profits from secondary monetization. First, the fuel surcharge. When fuel prices spike, carriers don't just absorb the cost. They levy a federally indexed surcharge on top of their base rate. Because large fleets purchase diesel in bulk at wholesale rack prices, but charge clients based on retail pump averages, a sudden energy spike can actually expand a carrier's margins overnight. Second, trailer detention and warehousing. When a driver arrives at a distribution center, they are typically given a 2-hour window to unload. If the facility is slow, the trucking company bills a detention fee, often up to $75 an hour. Multiply that across 40 drivers sitting at docks every day, and you have an entirely passive revenue stream generated by simply standing still. But running a fleet is a high-stakes operational minefield. Fuel is the absolute killer, representing over 30% of total revenue. Driver turnover is the second. The industry average turnover rate sits at a staggering 90%. That means if you employ 50 drivers, you will have to recruit, vet, and onboard 45 new drivers every single year just to keep your trucks moving. Worse yet, Insurance premiums have risen 47% since 2010 for small fleets, hitting a record average of over $14,000 per truck annually for new carriers. When freight demand dips, your fixed equipment and insurance costs do not. You still pay those bills whether your trailers are full or sitting empty. Perhaps that is why the most profitable trucking operations rely on a third, unofficial avenue of income, the shadow economy of logistics. In this world, the real money is made by acting as a bank, not a carrier. It is a system called freight factoring. Because major shippers often take 30, 60, or even 90 days to pay an invoice, small carriers cannot afford to wait for the cash flow. That is where the larger fleet owner or specialized broker steps in. They buy the small carrier's invoice instantly for a 3 to 5% haircut. The broker gets the full payout 90 days later, making an annualized return of over 15% on pure cash flow arbitrage. At this point, the true nature of the logistics game becomes clear. A trucking business is not a transportation company. It is a logistics-backed labor, risk management system on wheels. The trucks are simply the physical assets required to claim your share of the interstate highway system. Time to pull it all together and run the math. How much money do you actually make if you do this right? Let's look at 3 realistic versions of your trucking enterprise based on industry benchmarks. Option 1, the owner-operator with 1 truck. Your acquisition cost is $80,000 for a used truck and trailer. According to data from ATBS, individual owner-operators gross around $200,000 to $350,000, but net an average of $64,524 a year after fuel, maintenance, and high insurance bills. The catch? You are not a business owner. You have simply bought yourself a very demanding, high-risk job. Option 2, the regional fleet. With this will cost about $1.5 million to acquire. It generates $3.3 million in annual revenue, but your operating costs for driver wages, dispatch, and heavy maintenance will run around $2.8 million. This leaves you with a net profit of $500,000 a year. The catch at this scale is that driver retention and insurance compliance will dominate every hour of your life. Option 3. The asset-light freight brokerage with 0 trucks. The acquisition cost is just $50,000 for licensing, custom software, and your initial $75,000 surety bond. It can generate $5 million in annual revenue with $4.5 million in operating costs to pay third-party carriers to move your client's freight. This leaves you with a net profit of $500,000 a year. The catch here is that you own no physical assets, meaning your entire business relies on your ability to negotiate rates over the phone. In a low-margin world where everyone is fighting over fuel pennies, the smartest players don't focus on the wheels. They focus on the cash flow behind them. Because while everyone else competes for the load, the most successful logistics companies own the highway.